We live in a world of terror. We live in a world in which we're continually aware that forces can come into our life and turn us upside down. Listen to the story today of a man who experienced terror in a great, great extreme. My name is Father Mike Manning. I'm a Catholic priest. We live in a world in which terror is a reality. After 9/11, our sensitivity to the violence that some people might want to bring against us is very high. We live not only in the concern of those forces outside, but even within our own world, within our own cities. The concern about having enough police, the concern about making sure that there's enough bars on our windows to keep us safe from people who might want to break in and harm us. We live in that world, don't we, whether it's conscious or unconscious, of forces and people on the outside. What does that mean with regard to being a Christian? Do we get sucked up into that world of fear? Do we allow ourselves to be overcome with anxiety and deep, deep, deep fear that we could be sucked up into that? Well, today we're going to talk with a deacon of the Catholic Church. We're going to talk about this fear, this violence, and he's going to tell us the story of how he firsthand experienced it and then dealt with it. Deacon Mike, thank you very much for coming and being with us. God bless you for coming and sharing.
Well, thank you for having me here.
We met over in the church.
This is an honor.
I was saying Mass over in Redlands, and you came up and said, well, come on, let's talk about it. And you told me briefly of your story. But tell me first about, you're a deacon in the Catholic Church.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, basically, it means that I help assist the priest. I can preach. I can do baptisms, matrimonies. A good part of my thing, though, is being out in the community. And one of the things that I'm involved in is the Redlands area Interfaith Council.
Oh, Interfaith, okay.
So
various
there's ecumenical
religion and different denominations.
Different denominations.
But what is this deacon? Where does this come from in the Bible?
Well, actually, the reading was about 2 weeks, or about a week ago, where there was dissension amongst the early Christians. And
dissension in a Christian church?
We've never heard of such a thing.
I can imagine, yes. But going way back, there was a problem.
Going way back, there was a problem. And so the 12 apostles came together, and they said, pick 7 men from amongst you that are holy and that are filled with wisdom, that can deal with some of the problems that take our time away from us, from preaching the word, from getting the gospel out to the people. So St. Stephen, and there were 6 others, were the first deacons in the Catholic Church.
Okay. Now, whenever you talk about deacon, you talk in the Catholic Church of a thing called hierarchy that somehow is a little bit concerning to people that don't know where we come from. But there is, and this is this indication of what happened there, says that, in the early church, and even with the endorsement of Christ, there were certain responsibilities given to certain people, and that's what hierarchy is all about.
Exactly.
Various responsibilities. So we talk about the Pope, and we speak of the Bishop of Rome, and we speak of cardinals who are his advisors, that people that come to him, maybe 120 of them. Then we speak of the all around the world bishops, and sometimes even archbishops. An archbishop has a bigger concern than a bishop. We then have people like priests, and they're the ones that are in charge of parishes, or crazy priests like myself that do television ministry and whatnot. And the deacon is part of that hierarchy, if you will, of people who have been ordained by God. You're ordained, aren't you, as a deacon? They've laid hands on you, which is the sign in the Bible of that indication of that. And you've done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now, okay, so we got that a little clear, and your ministry is certainly to the church, and you're helping out with sacraments, but also carrying on an ecumenical and interreligious level. But tell me a little bit of the story of the experience that you had that relates to our concern with terror and violence in our world.
Well, it's one of those things, Father Mike, that you never think it's going to happen to you. But it happened to me, and one night I was closing down a big office building cable company that I worked for. And there were two of us at 11 o'clock at night.
Is this a big building? Like how many stories?
Oh,
or?
2 stories, and probably 400 people would work there.
Okay.
But we were the last 2.
Oh, so everybody had gone.
Everybody had gone. And just as I had done, 1,300 nights before, I went to open the door to go outside so that the gal that I was with could set the alarm. And as I opened the door to go outside, the door just whooshed out of my hands. And before we knew it, 5 ski masked men
Oh my gosh.
were on top of us. And my first thought was, this is a joke. Things like this don't happen to me.
Yes.
But then the reality of the situation set in, and I was pushed harshly against the wall. The first man in grabbed my neck, and I'm looking down the barrel of his gun.
Oh my.
And the fear that goes through you is just absolutely incredible. I felt like there was a rocket of fear that shot through my body. And I can remember praying, Lord, tell me what to say. And the only thing that I can quiverly say out of my body was, please don't shoot. I have a wife and 3 kids.
Yes.
And the assaultant said to me, shut up, and then all kinds of expletives, and they ordered us down to the ground. And then they questioned us why there were 3 cars out in the parking lot and only 2 of us coming out of the building. So I volunteered first, and I said, well, I drive the Volvo. And he kicked me in the face and pistol whipped me.
Really?
Yes. And he says, we know you drive the Volvo. So they must have been casing this place prior to this event. And then I made the mistake of saying what kind of car Carmen drove. And they kicked me in the face even harder. And for a month afterwards, I had double vision just from the kicking and beating in the face, and face was all swollen. And then finally I heard words that I thought I would never hear. And those words were, if there's anybody else in this building, you're a dead man, we're going to kill you. And at that point, you're frozen. And at that point, they sent 2 of the men throughout the building to search. And while they were gone, they duct taped our eyes and duct taped our hands behind our back. Wow. And I truly thought it was my last night on earth.
Yes.
So thank goodness for the Sisters of St. Joseph who said to me, and my parents, who taught me that when you're near death, pray the act of contrition. And when I began to pray the act of contrition, oh my God, I am heartily sorry for having offended you, the most incredible things started to happen. The fear that was encasing my body began to break away. And in its place came the most incredible peace I have ever felt in my entire life. I felt like I had an appetizer of the banquet of heaven. And if that's what the appetizer's like, I can't wait for the real thing.
Now, you've been kicked in the face, you've been pistol whipped, you've been now taped over your eyes, over your mouth too?
No, not over the mouth.
Not over the mouth?
But the hands.
The hands back there like that?
Yeah.
So you're in pain physically, but you're also in pain with the anxiety, and the Lord comes in and says something to your heart.
And he says,
and there's a peace.
And there's a peace. And I felt like I was being lifted by 10,000 angels.
Really?
It was the most incredible peace I have ever felt in my entire life. And I know it had to come from God, because only God can bring joy in a situation in the midst of evil.
So then what happened?
Well, then the 2 men came back, and they came back empty-handed.
So there are 5, you said.
Yeah,
5. So the 3 were still with you. Two went off to reconnoiter and
check and
make sure that
there
no
was
one else there.
Yeah, right.
And what about the 3rd car? What was that?
Well, the 3rd car turned out to be left there overnight from somebody who had left because the gas had been emptied.
So it was just a
was,
fluke.
It was a fluke. So they get us up off the ground, and blindfolded, we lead them down the hall to where the warehouse was. They wanted to steal cable boxes. And halfway down the hall, they asked us if there was any other alarms in the building. And neither myself nor the gal that I was with knew about a separate alarm that was in the warehouse. So we said no. So we get them to the first room. There's an open window in the second room where the converters are tested before they're given out to the installers. And then they go into the warehouse. And I'm standing there with my eyes shut, and I'm enjoying this incredible peace.
Oh my gosh, Michael!
Yeah, I mean, it was strange. It was like being in the eye of a tornado.
Yes.
And then I heard a humming sound, and because my ears were partially duct taped and muffled, it sounded more like the hum of a truck. And I didn't realize that it was a loud alarm. So the next thing I know, I remember hearing the patter of feet, I hear commotion, and then I hear a blast that just vibrates the entire room. I feel a warm sensation go through my back. My left leg went entirely numb, and as I'm falling to the ground, 3 words shoot out of my mouth as fast as the bullet that went into my back. And there's no way on God's green earth that I could have thought that fast on my own to say these 3 words. But those 3 words were, I forgive you. And I know he heard it. The woman that I was with heard it. So I know I'm not crazy, that I'm making something up. And only God could have put that there and given me that gift, that instant gift of forgiveness.
Mike, we're going to come right back. I want to know the aftermath of this in just a moment.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Listen to this message. We're going to come back. We're going to find out just what happened and maybe a little bit more of the meaning of forgiveness. I have a very special gift I want to send to you. This is a gift that's rather extraordinary. It's not something that we ordinarily do here in this ministry. It's a beautiful picture of Jesus, painted by the world-famous artist Stanley Gordon. See the handsome, rugged man in this painting with the mesmerizing blue eyes and medium-length beard and most likely an inherited Semitic feature of the slightly olive skin coming from his mother Mary. Look closely into the eyes of Jesus in this painting. You'll see a trusted friend, and you'll be touched by a very personal love. This portrait by Stanley Gordon is individually rendered and signed by the artist. That's very significant because there are only limited numbers of these paintings. It's a G-clay reproduction on Torino stretch canvas in a gold frame. Stanley Gordon is a 20th century outstanding artist, one that the world looks to when they want to understand beautiful depictions of the popes, the presidents, and important people of our life. This painting needs to be in your home to bless you, to bless the people who are your guests. It becomes a family heirloom. It becomes a gift for the ages. For the price of $2,500. I know that sounds steep, but it's worth it because we're talking about quality, powerful statements of the presence of Christ by a great artist. Please think about this and let us share with you, for the blessing of our ministry, this painting by Stanley Gordon. Deacon Mike, you've come to work. You're ending the day. You and a lady are closing up. Suddenly 5 men masked come in. They rough you up. They beat you up. They do terrible things to you. Then they blindfold you and tie your hands and lead you off to a place where they hope they're going to get some money from what they're doing, or some equipment
Exactly.
in order to do this. And an alarm that you didn't know suddenly sounds. And was it you think in panic or anger?
I think it was out of anger that he shot me.
Because he kind of was talking. It was the
yeah.
same man that had pistol whipped you in the beginning.
I believe so.
No, you don't know.
I have no idea.
You have no idea
Yeah.
because you were blindfolded.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Did they say anything? What did you hear when could you hear anything after you being shot of their reaction?
No.
They had
no.
to get out.
They were running. Yeah, because they knew that the police would be there. Yeah, very shortly thereafter.
And then what happened?
Well, I was laying there in this incredible sense of peace, and I kept thinking to myself, did I say I forgive you? And to this day, I truly believe that God gave me a gift of forgiveness, because if I had had anger, I think that joy that I had experienced would have disappeared. And that's what forgiveness does. It brings us joy, and it brings us peace. So I'm laying there in this incredible sense of peace, and finally, paramedics come, police come.
What's going on with the pain in your? I mean, a bullet in your back.
There's no pain whatsoever.
No,
I had no pain whatsoever.
There's probably so many things going on with this blessing from God and the shock of this whole thing.
Yeah, I truly believe that in God's goodness and His wisdom, by allowing me to forgive, He was beginning my own spiritual, emotional, and physical healing. Number one. And number two, I believe He was reaching out to that man's conscience. And to this day, I pray for that man.
Now, were you the authorities ever able to apprehend these five?
Not to my knowledge. Not for that crime. They said that the bullet that came out of my back, out of my spine.
Out of your spine?
Out of my spine. The doctors at first thought I would never walk again. And yet here I am today.
Yes.
I've still got paralysis in my toes, in my left foot. I have some residual back pain. But that pain reminds me of how much God loved me to be with me in a time of terror and in a time of horror.
Mm-hmm. One of the questions that we always ask here is, tell me about Jesus in your life. You had this experience. Could you talk a little bit about the residue of the experience? First of all, I think we all want to know how are you doing with regard to rehabilitation? How long was it in the hospital?
I was originally supposed to be in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I was out in 6 days.
Okay. And the bullet was in the middle of your back?
Yeah, it was in
your spine?
In the lower spine, L4, L5, S1, if you're medical. But
somewhere back there.
just below the waistline, and it was just millimeters away from making me a paraplegic.
Wow.
And my sister-in-law, who's an orthopedic surgeon's nurse, looked at this at the CAT scan. And she said, there's no reason you should be walking today.
Wow.
And that's the healing power that Jesus gives.
Yes.
And people think that miracles still don't happen. Miracles happen every day.
Really?
Every day.
Tell me about your relationship with Jesus. Certainly this was a heightened experience of acceptance and forgiveness. But tell me a little bit about who Jesus is in your life after this has happened to you.
He is my everything. There is nothing I would not do for Him. To this point, I've come to the point in my spiritual journey where I would lay my life down for Him. My conviction, my faith in Him is so strong, and in the words that He teaches us to love God, to love His Father, to love Him. And the diaconate, the word comes from the Greek, to serve. And I love serving God as a deacon in every ministry that I've ever come across as being a deacon in the church. But I can't even begin to tell you how deep my love is for my Lord.
One of the powerful experiences is in relationship to Jesus, is the word, I forgive you. Tell me a little bit more about what that means in your life now, aside from that kind of pivotal experience in the warehouse. How important is forgiveness to you now? And do you still feel a sense of forgiveness even after the hospital and everything else that's gone on? And you're saying residual pain and paralysis in the toes and things, but are you willing to forgive that person, whoever, even though that person probably isn't saying, I'm sorry I did that to you?
I would actually love to meet that man today. And it's drawing me to want to go into prison ministry and let the prisoners know how they are loved. Even no matter what they have done, no matter why they're there, if they accept the forgiveness of God, they will experience peace in their hearts.
Why? That's so contrary to the world in which we live. We live in a world of, I got to get back. I got to make sure that you suffer. And what you're saying is, go ahead. You've done something evil, you've hurt me, but go ahead and I forgive you. What kind of liberation does that speak to your heart?
Oh, the liberation that comes to the heart is just incredible. You don't walk around with the weight of revenge on your shoulders. And people said, well, don't you want him caught? And yes, I want him caught because I don't want him doing to somebody else what he did to me. But on the same token, I can still forgive him for what he did to me. And even though there's things that I can't do today, I used to love sports and play sports, and I can't do that. So my passion now has turned to talking about forgiveness. I go around to different churches, all kinds of different denominations, and I give talks on forgiveness and and I tell people, this is not my story. This story is the story of Jesus Christ, who lived 2,000 years ago, who taught us how to forgive.
Tell me a little bit, Mike, about your wife and family. How have they reacted to this situation? Are they supportive of your forgiveness and working through that? I can imagine the vestiges of anger and revenge would still be strong.
Well, I think forgiveness and joy is contagious, because as soon as I was able to forgive, it liberated them to be able to forgive. And it was interesting because my son, who was 21 at the time, when my kids were fighting at home, I would always say to them, we do not believe in physical violence in this family.
And here you come.
And my son says that to me. He says, Dad, and we still don't believe in physical violence, do we?
Yes.
And I said, no. I said, we believe in forgiveness.
Mike, there are some people at home, right here at this camera, right here. Would you talk to them about the power of forgiveness? We've just got about a minute to go. And would you
Sure.
talk to them, would you, and give your message?
If there's one thing that you can do, is think about the things in your life that you're still holding on to, angers that you're still holding on to, envy that you're still holding on to, and go to Christ, because he died for us 2,000 years ago. He died for us so that we could be forgiven. And that forgiveness is alive today. But we live in a world that is the opposite of forgiveness. People seek revenge. People seek judging other people. And I actually spoke to a 70-year-old woman and told my story, and the chaplain 2 days later came to me and said, Mike, you won't understand what happened. You won't believe what happened. That story moved her so much that she had not spoken to her daughter in 15 years. And after hearing your story, she went and called her daughter. And my message to you is, who in your life do you need to forgive? Or who in your life do you need to ask forgiveness from? The message of forgiveness is a message that comes from Jesus. And like I say, this story is the story of Jesus, who 2,000 years ago taught us how to forgive.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to be right back. Thank you so very much for being part of this television ministry, for watching. I hope that you're being blessed and that your life is being transformed, if you will, by the power of the love of Jesus for you to bring hope and life into your world. Remember, this ministry is not supported by commercials. It's supported by you being willing to send us a check, send us a commitment to allow us to be able to continue this vital ministry. Please, please. It's really important that you make prayer and the giving of a financial gift important. To encourage you to send that gift, I'd like to send you, for your gift, a copy of this book by a friend of mine, Father Marty Padovani. The book is called Healing Wounded Relationships, especially relationships in the family. This book can really help. Please support us and let me help you through this beautiful book. Mike, one of the joys of this ministry is not only do we talk to people out of this studio, but we also are able to get response from them. And there's a bank of people here right now waiting for people to call in, to pick up their telephones and give us a call and let us know what they can do what we can do to pray for them, and maybe open up with a little bit of prayer some of the forgiveness that's needed in their life. Also, it's a chance for people to make a pledge and be part of allowing this television ministry to continue. But the people here, these are some of the emails that we received, and some of also of the telephone calls that have come in. Jean from Indiana, looking for help for her illness. There's a struggle with alcohol from California again. This is from Lori. Sharon from North Carolina, they're getting ready to foreclose her house, and there's a meeting at the bank today. He went praying for a godly woman to come into his life and to bless him. Walter from California. The list is real, and the list of people that are calling out and asking for that. Lay your hands on there and pray with me if you would, and pray with us if you would right at home. Lord, please bless these people. Bring your healing, bring your hope, bring your life. And may Jesus' love for you always make you smile. God bless you.